remember the back in the day when all I wanted to do was play a bird watching game.
I remember you saying that.
And
Yes.
now we have that.
Wow.
What about like a game where you're just doing like laundry or something? Could we get a theme for that?
Sure. What's up, everybody? My name is Nick.
I'm Mike.
We're the Brothers Murph. We're doing a list called Top 10 Themes That We Want to See. We actually did a similar list to this kind of top 10 like underused themes. It was actually the first top 10 we did for Board Game Geek.
Way back
when.
when.
And it was a couple years ago now, and we actually like to, we've done this list on our own channel like a couple years before that. I really like to revisit these lists because it's fun to look back and see like, oh, what was on there? Like, what was on there before was like music, and now there's like Lacrimosa. We talk about like, I want to see more games about science. There's more science games.
Yeah.
I want to see more games about nature. Now there's a ton of nature games. So it's actually like a lot of like the things we wanted to see.
Maybe we whispered them into existence.
Kind of came to fruition. You said pirates at some point. There's more pirate games now. So like maybe we're changing the world, people. We're probably not. But nonetheless, this is going to be 10 themes that we would like to see.
Yeah.
Okay, our number 10 is one that we've talked about before, and this is something I still really, really want to see, and this is other perspectives. And what I mean by that is kind of seeing the other side of the coin within a game. And so my perfect example of this is something like Spirit Island. In Spirit Island, you are the island, and there's like colonizers coming onto the island, and you're trying to get them off of your island. I like that perspective. In this case, you're not the people settling the island, you're the island trying to get people off your island. I think that's a really cool idea, to be those spirits and to kind of see a game from the other perspective, that other side of the coin. And this is one of those situations where like, I don't entirely know, like, I don't have an example of like, this would be really great to see it from the other side of the situation. I love that kind of out of the box thinking that Spirit Island does. And I want to see more games do that, where you're seeing the other side of the coin. You're seeing the other perspective. One kind of series of games that's doing that a little bit is Tidal Blades. Tidal Blades, you have Tidal Blades 1, Heroes of the Reef. You have Tidal Blades 2, which is like a dungeon crawl. But then you also have, I thought it was right here, apparently it's not. We have Tidal Blades Banner Festival. Tidal Blades Banner Festival is actually a trick-taking game, but it's set in that world. But in this world, you are playing as different, against like market, you're people selling stuff in the stands during these Tidal Blade tournaments. So you're like selling like meat on a stick and doing all this kind of stuff. So you're out there as merchants during the Tidal Blades games, because the first one is all about all the Tidal Blades, or people who are hoping to be Tidal Blades. They are competing in all these different tournaments, but in this case, you then are going into the stands and you're actually playing as the merchants selling stuff in the stands at these tournaments. And I just think it's such a cool perspective. And again, like in the end, it's just a trick-taking game, and this is just the setting they put it in. But I just think that's so fun that you can play Tidal Blades, but then you can also just go into the stands and play a trick-taking game as like the merchants in the stands selling stuff. I just think it's a really cool perspective, and I just want to see more other perspectives, different stuffs. Your viticulture, and you got to be the grapes, and you're just trying to escape being squished. I don't know. So number 9, something I'd like to see is farming, but in like a futuristic world. So like maybe like farming on a big colony spaceship or something. So you mix some like sci-fi in with what would otherwise be like a Uwe Rosenberg Caverna type game. You know what I mean? I feel like sometimes farming goes fantasy, which is cool. I want to see farming go futuristic. So maybe using in the kind of machinery you have, or the types of, I don't know, your gene splicing fruit or something. I don't know. I think it'd be really cool to add an element of sci-fi to growing crops and stuff, which is like one of my favorite themes. I'm a farm guy, I guess, but I want to see us get a little bit more like farming in space, and what would that look like? Or farming on the moon. How do you terraform the moon specifically to grow beets? Let me know. You know, that's the kind of game I want to see. That's number 9. Number 8 is something that's happened in a couple games like Anachrony and The Loop, and that is time travel. This one is number 8 because this does happen. I think Anachrony does a pretty good job of like time traveling and making it feel kind of like time travel. The Loop doesn't feel like time travel, but I think it's a very interesting concept of where you're like essentially trying to track down Dr. Foe in all these different time periods, but it doesn't feel like you're traveling through time. But to me, and I'm sure some people feel this way about Anachrony, but I feel like we still have just not gotten that time travel game, the game that really feels like you're just going throughout time. I just think it's really cool. There's an interesting trick-taking game called Time Chase, where this one kind of weirdly enough feels most time travel-y to me, where it's a trick-taking game where you are playing tricks and stuff like that, and then you play a trick, you win a trick, and then you go on to the next trick, but you can actually go like back in the row and win previous tricks, and so you're kind of traveling back through time to win tricks. Again, it's just a trick-taking game, but I actually think it's pretty interesting. But time travel is something I always want to see more of, and something that I don't know, I just feel like I haven't seen that time travel game that I'm like, yes, this is it. And that's why it's still on this list. It's around a little bit, but nonetheless, I love time travel as a theme, and I wish there was a little bit more of it.
Number 7, I want to see home building games. We have some, like Dream Home and stuff, but I want to see a game that gets into the kind of ins and outs of building, decorating, setting up the design of a house, but with a kind of a heavier game behind it or something. There's a lot of like city building games, Suburbia being a favorite of ours, where it's all about, if I put this tile next to this tile, then it's going to kind of boost that one because they're kind of synergistic. If I have a big parking lot next to a bunch of business district buildings, so that's where they would park and then go to work, and so it kind of makes sense. I'd like to see that kind of go micro and focus on one house. How do you arrange your house? What elements do you put in that house? How do you kind of upgrade things? And maybe to get like, I don't know, like the most valuable house or something like that. I would just like really kind of have a beefier game than something like a Dream Home, which is sort of kind of set collection-y stuff, which I enjoy, but give us a little bit more weight, but have it be about building a home. I think that'd be really interesting, and that's why it's on our list.
Number 6 is kind of a weird one, and that is The Body. I always really, really like games that are based around science. Like, I love Genius games because all their stuff is based around like real science, and I just like that concept. But I think the human body is such an interesting thing because the human body is incredible if you think about it. Like, so adaptive, so weird how the body works, but like one of my favorite games, my favorite area control games, is a game called Viral, which takes place, it's an area control game where you're diseases in a body, and you're all just super killing this dude that you're inside, and so you're actually like trying to take over the different organs and stuff. It's a very weird but very, very fun area control game, and I wish there was more games based around the body, and you could do a whole bunch of different stuff. It could be like that, where you're actually like inside the body, you're like organs trying to work or something like that. You could have it be where like you're trying to exercise, or you're trying to do this, you're trying to like run a marathon, so you have to like do all this different training and make it like a Euro game so you can go run the marathon faster than everyone else. I don't know. I just think I kind of like zooming in on stuff when it comes to themes. Like, instead of this big broad theme, it's like zoom in and have a thing just about like the brain and how the brain works and like the neuroconnectivity and all this kind of stuff. I just think it'd be very, very interesting. I want to see more games based off kind of like the people, because people are cool and bodies are astonishing. The fact that I can eat 27 Hot Pockets and I just don't die? How? Make a game about it. Hot Pockets, sponsored by Hot Pockets. I'll take that sponsorship all day.
Number 5 is one that we've wanted to see for a long time. There's a couple little things that do this, but I'm gonna see more games that kind of mess around with alchemy. Like, I like the idea of like mixing metals and kind of doing low-key magic stuff, right? With trying to transmute materials and whatnot. I think that'd be kind of fun to explore. We played Trismegistus, which does this, and we didn't really love it. It didn't really sing for us. It was just a little bit wonky in some parts and things. So I would love to see a game that kind of does like transmutation of materials and alchemy and whatnot. And just find a way to explore with that. I don't know what, maybe like a deck building game or something. You can turn this, and if you play these cards in this order, it turns into this kind of card. Something like that. I think it'd be really interesting. So if there's any alchemy games out there, let me know, because I'm looking.
Number 4 4 is a theme that some people might find very boring, but I want more games based around specifically civil engineering. I think engineering is always interesting because it's just a big puzzle, right? You're trying to make something work, trying to make something very efficient. That's very board gamery. I like that. I'm surprised there's not more games just about engineering in general, but I think civil engineering is honestly fascinating. There's a couple of YouTube channels like I think Practical Engineering that I watch all the time because he's just talking about like waterways and how they work. And I'm like, this is fascinating because there's so many different things about living in a city that like you flush the toilet and it just goes away and it just goes into a sewer system. And we just don't even think about sewer systems. And the fact that there's this whole underground system in our city that takes away wastewater, takes out water in general, all this kind of stuff, and takes it to all these different places. And it has to work seamlessly, and it works so well that we just don't even have to think about it. I find like municipalities like that very interesting. I think you can have a very interesting game where you're like waste collectors. You're driving garbage trucks and you're going around, you're trying to pick up trash, and you're trying to pick up all the trash faster than anyone else, pick up, deliver game, I don't know. You know, you're picking up trash, delivering it over to the dump or whatever. I just think a lot of like civil engineering stuff or municipality stuff could be really, really interesting. You could be like building dams. You could be doing all sorts of different stuff, adding weirs to waterways so that they flow differently. And there's so much different stuff you could do. And I honestly think that civil engineering really could be an interesting theme because there's so many good like Euro mechanics that you could put in that theme. And I just think it would be fascinating to kind of like be like, yeah, you have to like make like really efficient sewer systems in this city. And if you don't, it's gonna cause problems. And it's just, there's so much of life that we just don't think about it because it's just taken care of because of really good civil engineering. And I just think it'd be an interesting topic. Is it just me? Can you let me know? Am I the only one who wants to talk about like trash picking up? I don't know, I think it'd be cool.
I'd like to see more games that focus on like restaurant life and food prep and stuff. Now there's like Kitchen Rush, right? Really fun game, cooperative, real-time game where your workers are sand timers. They have to go, now I'm cooking peas or whatever, and they have to wait till the sand, empties to reuse that worker. I think that's really cool. I'd like to see, I think, maybe more of a restaurant game, kind of management game that removes like a real-time element and it's really kind of about the kind of nitty-gritty of like preparations for food and maybe kind of, preparing for a service. Maybe it's a game that has different phases where there's kind of a food prep and all sorts of things and you kind of build your menu, and then something where you kind of get to see how that runs, maybe a push your luck game, element to it or something like that, where it's like, I've done all this prep and that maybe gives me good odds of having a really good service, and now I've made this amount of money. And then you can reinvest and maybe upgrades to your restaurant. There's just a lot of things I think like would make sense. And there are some kind of restaurant themed games, but I'd like to see another one that gets really into kind of that management and how does like the way that you prepare for the day serve you when the day actually begins. And I think that'd be kind of a fun back and forth. So that's why it's on this list. I think restaurants, food prep, that kind of aspect of it would be really, really fun to explore.
Our number 2 is, I'm gonna call it true animals. And I guess what I mean by that is there are a lot of games about nature and there are a lot of games with animals, but I feel like there's none like where the animals are being like true animals. So there's a lot of nature games like Cascadia or something like that. There's a lot of games or Keystone North America, but they're just kind of like generally about nature. They have a nature background. You're putting out different habitats, maybe putting animals in that habitat, Eco's First Continent kind of stuff. Very, very cool. Love those kinds of games. And there's a lot of games with like animals, like especially like anthropomorphized animals like Everdell or Creature Comforts or something like that. Or even if they are like animals, they're still, the game isn't about being an animal. I would love a game where you're like beavers, and you can make them like cutesy beavers if you want to, but it's like a heavy Euro game where you're like beavers and you are literally trying to construct dams and stuff. I want a game where you are, I don't know, some kind of hooved animal and you are having to migrate across this giant area and you have to do it and you have to find food places or something like that. Or maybe you're birds migrating. You have to get up over the Himalayas or whatever, or you have to like stop off here to refuel and go. I don't entirely know what these games would be, but I would like to see more games where you are animals or are about animals, but it's more about like true to being those animals. Like if you were a herd of elk, what would that game be? Like what would you actually be needing to do? You need to find foraging spots. You could be bees. There's a lot of bee games, but I want to see like a hardcore Euro game where you are out trying to find like a new place for a nest. You're out trying to find you can make a big diplomacy game where you found a flower field and you're trying to get other bees to go check out that flower field. I don't know. I just want more games where you are animals, but you're being true to what those animals would actually be doing in real life, rather than just kind of making like abstract nature games or making like kind of like cute animal games, or where they're essentially just people, we're just drawing them as like woodland creatures. So I really want like more true animal games. It's kind of the best way I can put it.
So number one for us is tourism, or like being a tour guide. I think that'd be so cool to like specifically be someone who you're running like your own little tourism business. Maybe you're set in like Washington, D.C. or something like that, and you're going off and giving tour guides, and almost like you can kind of invest in upgrades for yourself of like, I'm the person who knows all the fun facts and I can do this, this, and this. Or, you know, maybe I provide a whole different kind of tour. I do like the ghost tour, the underground tour, the things that people don't normally think about and talk about in this place, and find ways where everyone kind of have their own specialty or something like that. And then seeing kind of like how that works for getting, you know, appeal from people or something like that. Maybe make some tips or something. And so I think that would be kind of interesting. It's something that's based around tourism or giving tours specifically. You know, I get a little segue. Some of my tours features, you know, the segue path. And that is either really cool for people or not so cool for other people or something like that. So maybe you have, you know, your audience for the day, your groups that are coming in, and maybe they have certain things that they like or don't like. And so you're trying to maybe create a tour that's going to be the most appealing thing possible for them. I think that'd be something really fun to kind of focus on, is just like, I'm a tour guide, you know, I'm some docent in a museum and doing that. I just think it'd be kind of a quirky, fun thing to explore. I don't know quite how it would work. I'm not a game designer. That's why I just spit these things out, and hopefully game designers will be like, I'll make that. And then we're like, thank you so much. So that's our number one, is tourism / being a tour guide. That's it. So those are 10 themes we want to see more of.
Yeah.
More games or any games would be fantastic.
It'd be cool, you know. And honestly, real talk, the number one answer for this is like just something different. Right? Like anything different. I honestly think one of the main reasons why Wingspan was so popular is because there just weren't any games about birds. Now there's a lot of games about birds, nature, all this kind of stuff.
Which is fantastic.
But it was kind of the first one people were like, a game about birds, that's interesting. Neat. And so honestly, like, just give me something different. A different theme will immediately be like, Q-Doc, I'm interested. That's
say
it.
some more.
Fold them laundry, why not?
Right.
What themes would you like to see? Let us know down in the comments below. And I think that's it, Mikey.
That's it, everybody. I'm Mike.
I'm Nick.
We are the Brothers Murph, and we'll catch you all in the next Top 10.
Bye, everybody.